They have shown great patience, great grace, and great strength in a very challenging time. I also want to say that I personally understand what our seniors are experiencing, as my oldest grandchild, shout out to Damara, is a senior in Maryland, and her district has opted for a virtual graduation where she will pretty much receive her diploma in the mail. She has worked hard, earned honor roll, and was inducted into the National Honor Society. And but her diploma will be in her mailbox. You know, it's a hard pill to swallow, but understanding what her district is experiencing is just that every district across the country is experiencing, and that is the need to put safety first. So at any rate, I also want to say that when we said goodbye to our seniors on March 13th, we didn't know. We had no idea that we would not be returning to school as we know it to be this year. We sent all of our students off thinking, just wait a couple of weeks, we'll all be back together again. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. Once it became clear that we wouldn't be returning, our seniors became a priority, not only for the state, but for Orange County schools as well. We knew that we had to find the best possible way to celebrate and graduate our seniors despite these difficult and unexpected circumstances. So just to provide a timeline of the events that have occurred thus far. So on May 1st, the district, all districts in North Carolina received the much anticipated graduation guidance from the state. We had been waiting for it. It came on May 1st. And the state's guidance included four graduation options: drive-in, drive-through, individual ceremonies. And I just want to pause on the individual ceremonies for just a minute. The individual ceremonies would mean one student at a time and no more than 10 people. And if 7 of those 10 are staff who are needed to guide students, support all of that, that's 7 taken away from the 10. But at any rate, and virtual. So those were the 4 options. And they made it abundantly clear that we had to abide by all, and I mean all, social distancing and mass gathering requirements of the executive orders in order to maintain the safety of our students, families, and staff members. And we would not, I don't think anybody could argue with safety. And so, fine, that's what we had to work with. So a group of stakeholders were engaged, consisting of myself, the 3 high school principals, representation from the Sheriff's Department, the district's liaison with the Health Department, and central office staff, to determine which of the 4 options would allow us the greatest opportunity to engage our students. We had already experienced the cap and gown distribution process, and while that was wonderful, that's the drive-through model. So that's where, again, students are in a car and they drive through, they stop, and they were all very festive, lots of cheering and applauding and all kinds of things going on. But pretty much it's a drive-through. It's like you go through a McDonald's drive-through. You stop. It was, open the trunk would open, or we'd open the back door, or window would open, and we'd disseminate caps and gowns in that way, and say a few words, and the students would keep going. And while it was great to see them, and based on what they told me, because I asked, do you miss us? Because we miss you. And they said yes. It was great to hear our seniors say how much they miss school. And I know, coming from a senior who is close to being done, it meant a lot. But we thought, could we do better than that? And so of the options, we thought the drive-in option would give us the opportunity to have the greatest level of engagement per the 4 options available. And I say that because in the drive-in option, graduates would arrive in person in a car. They would exit their car. So unlike the drive-through model where you stay in your car, graduates would exit the car, be officially acknowledged by having their names called out or read aloud, and any honors and accomplishments and what their plans are for next year announced over a public announcement system. They would walk across the stage to safely collect their diplomas and pose for a photograph, all while the entire event being streamed live. And so again, with the approval of the health department and the sheriff's office in terms of, you know, what that would look like in Orange County, that was the option that we landed on, because again, of all the options, this one gave us the greatest opportunity to engage students. And so now that we have the drive-in option, that one has been identified as the most engaging option per state guidelines. More stakeholders at each school can be engaged to include students and families. And I want to emphasize students because 3 schools and I feel very strongly that, you know, really want to get their students involved and their opinions about and help with planning their ceremony. So they will be engaged to determine the location for the graduation ceremonies and celebrations in June. And the options for the drive-in version in June is either at the school or will be at the Orange County Speedway. So I understand other districts have reached out to the Orange County Speedway requesting to use their facility. I didn't know we had Orange County Speedway, but they reached out to us. Hey, learning lots of things about Orange County, but they reached out and offered their facility to us for free. And we said, wow, well, that's something that can be considered. So we want the students to choose, where do you want to have your ceremony? And it may be different at each of the 3 schools. You know, one school may say, we want our drive-in ceremony at the school. Another may say at the Speedway. That's up to the students. And then we need their involvement with determining all of the logistics. And I mean, the sky is the limit. Well, sort of. We certainly have some budgetary constraints, but, you know, will there be balloon arches, a DJ, confetti cannons? I mean, what do they want that to look like? And to also to plan for a more traditional ceremony. So the plan is to have 2 ceremonies, this one in June, which allows the students who are going away to college, students who are going away to work, to have a graduation ceremony. And then when there are fewer social distancing restrictions to contend with, we will have a traditional ceremony. And again, stakeholder involvement with planning for those. So let me close by saying that high school graduation is an extremely important milestone. We are very, very focused on keeping our students, staff, families, and communities safe while celebrating and acknowledging all of their wonderful accomplishments. We look forward to celebrating and graduating our seniors twice in June, which enables, again, our students who are going off to college and work to participate, and again, when current social distancing restrictions are lifted. I look forward to continuing to keep you apprised of each school's graduation celebration plans as they unfold over the coming weeks.
All right, any questions from any board member?
Got a comment.
Okay, Dr. Hakiotis.
I think it's really important to involve not only students in examining what they may like to see happen, but parents. Parents, guardians need to be involved in this whole process. We have the banner that says first choice of families, and I think that has to be followed religiously. And I think once you get parental support and involvement, you also help educate folks as to the limitations that are involved in this very dire time we're living in. And I just noticed I had breaking news on my cell phone that the Guilford County Board just voted to have drive-through ceremonies. I think it's important here in Orange County that we involve our parents. We have done that historically.
Yep.
I think we should make sure we get that done and get them
Yes.
involved in the process.
If I could just, thank you so much, Dr. Halkiotis, for your comment, but absolutely, we're going to involve the families, but we also want students to know, they're part of their family, of course, but we want the seniors to know that we want to get their input as well. So the students and their families will plan it out from here, certainly give input.
Okay, other board comments?
Well, I'll just say, Dr. Felder, I know that we're working within the parameters that's been laid out for us, and this is not an ideal situation, but I understand we're trying to do the best that we can. And thank you for all of those options.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Anyone else?
I just want to echo what Brenda said, that I know we are working in incredibly trying circumstances and our legal options were quite limited. And I appreciate you, Dr. Felder, and staff really working to make it the most celebratory occasion that we can possibly pull off for our seniors right now and that is safe for our community. So thank you very much.
Same to that. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Sarah. So, Dr. Felder, I just had just a couple of comments. One is one that, I haven't heard it specifically, but I just wanted to get confirmation is on the drive-in model, do we have someone looking at transportation for students who may not be able to get transportation in that type of event? And how we could accommodate that, given there probably will be some students?
Oh, yeah. So that certainly has come up. That's on the list of logistics that we have to figure out. But yeah,
Okay.
figure that out. Mrs. Raff has offered her pickup truck, said she'd load up a child or two back there and keep them socially distant. So we'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Okay, excellent. And then the last thing is, as all the board members mentioned, very grateful for making sure that we are doing what is responsible for the health and safety of our kids and parents. So the next step, just to make sure, because I know people are listening and just trying to understand, is the principals will be reaching out to the families and the students to talk about getting them together to figure out these next steps.
Yes, yes. With the first next step would be to get their input on the location, because that has to be determined, and then all the logistics can be planned around that. I mean, whether it's at the school or the speedway, the security, there's just a lot to plan out, and so the location will be next, and that will again require family and student input.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Felder, for that update. I think this helps answer a lot of questions that families have had, so thank you.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move to our next agenda topic, the budget and impacts of COVID-19. Just as a precursor for the board, during our last joint meeting with the county commissioners, one of the questions we were asked after we presented our budget and some discussion would the school boards have a secondary discussion after the county manager presents their recommended budget. And since the county's manager presented that last week, we don't have a meeting in between before they have their first work session discussion. So we definitely want to be able to have a discussion about all of our views on this and how we want to present our budget. That could mean many forms, just to set the expectation. It could be we go forward with our existing one. It could be we come back and say, you know what, we've looked at where we are with our community, what's going on, and here are the things we need for the school systems to get us through this, pandemic issue we're in, both remote learning and others. And it could be a combination. So this discussion is open. Dr. Felder and Rhonda are going to take us through some of those discussion items, but I just wanted to set kind of why we're here, and then what we're trying to get to is at the end of it, what do we want to tell the county commissioners for the Thursday meeting from an Orange County Schools perspective on budget for next year? All right, Dr. Felder.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Atherton. And so I believe Rhonda is going to kick us off here, and she has a PowerPoint. Rhonda, are you going to share your screen?
I am here, and I was just getting ready.
Okay.
If I have the ability to please share my screen. Okay, there we go. Give me just a moment, please. Okay. So based upon questions that we have had and basically the commissioners meeting that we participated in on April the 28th, and now having insight into the manager's recommended budget, we've put together a brief revised request for your consideration this evening after the commissioners tasked us with potentially looking at our budget again and maybe considering different options. So what I'm showing you tonight is the presentation in the hopes of presenting to the commissioners should we feel like this is the route that we would like to go. I hope that everyone can see my screen adequately, and therefore I am going to go forward. One thing I do want to point out as we continue in this budget process and during this budget time is that our focus has not changed. Our focus is going to remain on literacy, climate and culture, stakeholder engagement, all up under the umbrella of equity. We have shared with you as well as the community as well as the commissioners all of the data that supports our reasons for focusing on these areas. And I think it's important to say right up front as we go forward that our focus is not going to change. It may mean that some things may not be done as quickly as we want them to be done, or we may have to shift, but our focus will remain on these items. Okay, so the county manager came back with a proposed recommended budget that was a $5 increase over the per pupil funding that we received in fiscal year 20 for this current fiscal year.
Hey, Rhonda?
So, yes.
This is Todd. Sorry, if you hit the present button, I think it'll make your screen a lot bigger and more legible. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope.
Kind of in the upper right of your browser.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble locating that.
Over by your picture in your top right-hand corner, do you see the orange share? Right next to it is present. Oh, down.
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't. It's
No, there's something all right, here we go.
oh, not share. Next to share. It's yeah. There you go.
Present.
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay, better?
Better.
All right. Sorry, everyone. So the third column here represents what we requested based upon our DPI projected ADM of 7,381, our current charter school students of 885, and our current actual out-of-district students for the next fiscal year bringing us to our total anticipated students of 8,156. What we requested was $35,496,000, which was based upon the same per pupil funding that we received this year. What I hope to carry us through now is what the manager recommended, which is the, I'm sorry guys, I got graphs in my way and I can't see. What the manager recommended fiscal year only leaves us approximately $46,000 to apply towards our continuation budget. We had requested as part of our continuation budget for next year an anticipated salary increases as well as anticipated benefit increases. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic and the state of the economy, it is fairly well known that salary increases are probably not going to happen for the next fiscal year. Based upon all the discussions that we're having with our folks in DPI, it is just not looking probable that there will be any salary increases. So for this recommendation, one of the things that I would like to present is maybe that we take that out of our county request and only request the mandated benefit increases. I do know based upon the House bill that was passed last year, the mini bill that allowed for the teachers to get the bump increases, set the benefit increases, and they will increase. We're pretty confident that that will happen, and therefore I really think we should ask the commissioners for funding to support that. Also, I know how important it is to each of you, as well as to Dr. Felder, that we try to do something for our staff. Our staff are working tirelessly right now in a very unfamiliar environment, and they're knocking it out of the park. They're doing a phenomenal job. And to think that we may have to consider no pay increases for a second year in the row is just something I know none of us want to do. So after discussions with several folks, it is recommended that we leave that one-time bonus in there for staff at $1,000. And then the other item that I have for consideration to keep in our requested budget is the COVID-19 student education support of $250,000. So with those items, that would bring our per pupil request to $4,422. So this is how this looks in a more granular detail. Our fiscal year 2020 appropriation was $35,401,000. The county manager has proposed $35,543, which gives us a budget increase of approximately $142,000. Well, of that $142,000, $95,000 of that has to go to support our ADM growth. So once you, of the 142 that she gave in the $5, 95 will need to go to fund the ADM growth. So what that leaves us with is $47,000 to apply towards our continuation / expansion budget. So when I look at the state mandated benefit increases as well as the COVID-19 education support, factoring the budget that is available that is over and beyond our ADM growth, that still has us falling short $524,000 or $64 per pupil. And then of course, the one-time funding for staff bonuses, when we add that in as a one-time funding, not as a per pupil funding, that gives us a grand total shortfall for this budget season of $1.5 million. One thing that we also wanted to talk about and share is that there are additional funds that are being made available. LEAs, the local education agencies, through state resources as well as federal resources. State funding, which came from Governor Cooper's emergency funding, we received $226,000 of that, and we have received that. The Federal CARES Act, we are projected to receive $940,000. Have not seen it yet. Do not know when those funds will be released to us. We're being promised that it will be soon, but they're not in our bank account yet, and they're not available for us to draw on them. But when they do become available, we will have an additional $1.2 million that will be available for COVID-19 emergency responses. One thing I do want to point out about these funds is that they are restricted in many ways, and they do expire. First, the state's funding, the additional $226,000, is pretty restricted. It can only be expended for school nutrition, school community-based child care, which we do not have any of that in this current environment, cleaning and sanitizing the schools and buses, and any protective equipment and remote learning. That $226,000 actually reverts on June the 30th, so what is not spent by then will be reverted back to the state. The federal funds came with a little bit more flexibility in regards to how they could be spent, and we actually have until September the 21st of, that should be 2021, is when those funds expire. There's a misprint on this chart. I apologize for that. But those funds are not as restricted as much so as those state funds were. So, all of that to say, we did receive an additional $1.2 million, but this is how the plan is looking that those funds are going to be spent. $200,000 is going to be needed for those 500 additional hotspots that we purchased to provide to families that don't have internet access. For those hotspots and that connectivity, that is roughly anticipated to be $200,000, which is an expense that we are able to apply towards the state funds or these federal funds, and would so plan to do. We also know that we have the K through 2 students who we need to be able to plan to provide devices for them to be able to take home for remote learning. And based upon our data that we've collected at this time, we're anticipating roughly that to be $825,000. The telework stipends for the teachers and teacher assistants and other staff utilizing their personal cell phones and personal data plans and personal technology equipment to support student learning are anticipated to be $100,000, which we will also be utilizing these funds for. And then the printing and postage associated with the remote learning packets, that is anticipated to be at least $43,000, if not more. So of the 4 items that I have in front of you on the screen this evening, that basically consumes the additional funds that we have planned to receive over and beyond from the state and federal in support of COVID-19. So, to state more, we know that there are going to be a lot of expenditures that we are expecting that, based upon the county manager's budget that has been recommended at this point, are going to be unfunded. For in-person learning for our students, there's going to need to be personal protection equipment made available for them. And our preliminary estimates at looking at masks and those types of things to have available to everyone for in-person learning, it is roughly anticipated to be $81,000 a month. The additional counselors to support student social and emotional health that we had in our expansion budget, we know that those are going to be crucial for whenever we do receive our students back into our buildings and try to begin that transition to that in-person learning. Translators, we know that, and I apologize that I see another misspelling on this chart for this third bullet. That should be Latin X. I apologize for that. But we know that we're going to need additional translators to support our 23% Latino population. A social and emotional coordinator. Right now, our social and emotional department consists of one. We also are looking at remote learning curriculum and the necessary staff professional development in support of that. Transportation impacts for physical distancing. What is it going to look like to transport students and physical distance them? Does that mean we're going to have multiple routes, more buses, more bus drivers? We don't know that. Hot water in every school to promote proper hand washing. You know, we've had discussions and have heard that the students are reluctant to do proper hand washing because they don't want to use cold water. What about remote summer instruction? What does that look like for our summer months? Potentially any accessory equipment that our students may need. Increase maintenance staff to address the maximum cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting of school buildings and buses. Staffing calls for potential increase in instruction hours that could be anticipated to address learning loss, i.e. this may mean before school, this may mean after school, it could mean Saturday. We just don't know at this time. We also don't know, are we going to be required to have temperature checking stations at every facility for when our students do enter the building? These are all of expenditures at this time that we feel like are anticipated, but at this time and at the manager's current budget will not be funded. And in order to stand up this work and to do this work to the best for our students, we're going to have to take a look at reprioritizing some things in our budget should the county manager and the Board of County Commissioners not elect to fund us more than what has been recommended from the county manager. And that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions, discussion? I would love feedback on what board members are thinking in regards to our request to the county and how you would like to go forward.
Got a comment, Will?
Dr. H, go ahead.
Just for an overall assessment, our continuation budget right now is in total jeopardy, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
There is no, the $5 would go towards continuation and any possible expansion, which is ludicrous. $5 is not going to do it. I've never seen such a ludicrous and foolish recommendation in my life, and I want to go on record as saying that.
Can I add something?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I agree with Dr. Halkiotis. I mean, I understand the like budget environment, but like, you know, I think what we're talking about is at a bare minimum, just the benefits increase. Even if you only take the benefits increase, how many people are going to have to lose their jobs in the school system in order to cover the benefits increase? And I didn't see any job cuts on the county side of staff in any of those departments. So you know, I think that like, we're not even meeting the continuation needs. On the, and then that last slide you had, Rhonda, of all those costs, I mean, that's, you know, over $800,000 in just the PPE. I mean, there's no way to pay for all of this. So this is some of these things. It's like, well, if this is what we have to do, I have no idea how we would ever, you know. So that's what I'll say about that. I had a question for anyone who knows. Dr. Halkiotis might know, Ms. Stevens might know. Is it common practice for the school district to ask for an amount of money it believes it needs, and then come back and say, actually, no, we need this smaller amount of money now that you've proposed such a small amount? Because I'm not inclined to do that. I'm inclined to go back and say, this is what we thought we needed. And that last slide, by the way, these are the additional costs on top of that we think are needed. I mean, I'm in favor of considering for some of these things should we like pull from fund balance instead of putting them into the continuation request, maybe, if it's a little bit more one time, like the bonuses. But I did have a question about whether this was sort of standard to go back and say, we can revise it down.
I'd like to respond to that, Will.
Go ahead, Dr. H.
Sarah, that's a good question. And I feel that we've asked for what we've needed. The only thing I would have trouble supporting under these dire circumstances would be the staff bonus for over $1 million. If we can't fund some equity positions, why are we doing a $1,000 staff bonus in excess of $1 million? If we're looking to help all children, and I've read those articles that Dr. Felder sent out for us to take a look at, the school population's in greatest jeopardy from all of this. Are the children with disabilities, are the children that come from households that may not even have internet access, don't have technology available to them. We need to stand up and send a clear message that what we're asking for is what we need. Like I said, the only thing I think I can't support $1 million for staff bonuses, and I wouldn't support it because we've got all these other needs that we're trying to do. And if we're going to flesh out a meaningful equity program, we need at least a couple of those equity positions we wanted to put in that expansion budget. I think we should stick to our guns. That's my personal opinion. Everybody needs to reach out to any county commissioner that you can reason with and explain to them, this isn't for us, this is for the kids. The kids need this.
Will, if I could, this is Jonathan. I just wanted us to explain where the board is legally, school system is legally at this point. I mean, the legal requirement is for the board to approve and send to the county a budget by May 15th. You have done that. If there is any appetite to rescind the prior decision of the board and amend it to make any change to your budget, then that is something that you could do, but it would be a motion to rescind and amend the prior action to adjust the request, if that's, again, what the board wants to do, and that would then be submitted to the county as well. Because you have taken action at this point and you've met your statutory obligation. So I did kind of want to let you all know where you were legally. Sarah, I'm not familiar with situations where a school district has sent a budget and then, amended it prior to the sort of May 15th deadline. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I'm just not familiar with that.
I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. The only thing I was referencing is on any final budget considerations, I could not support $1 million bonus program.
I think I would love for us personally to go back to the county commissioners and underscore, I mean, those things in that last slide, which is, I think, new detail, and then underscore the needs of, I mean, the school counselors, like these kids have gone through some trauma and they're going to continue to, like this is, and that, and then like the fact that it does not even cover the continuation costs and we're going to have to like cut staff rather than add staff.
Well,
Hillary?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of going back with less of a request. I mean, I think that we just need, as Sarah was saying, to highlight the things on this last page. I mean, over $800,000 of PPE is a pretty compelling number. And if they want to not fund us so that we can't, I mean, we have to protect these kids. We don't have a choice, and they need to help us do that. And I feel like we need to lay that out pretty clearly for them.
All right. Brenda?
I think I probably should keep quiet. Well, one thing I will say, I heard somebody say, well, I'm not familiar with any county ever going back. Well, I guess we're not, because we've never been in a situation like this before. So no, we haven't done it, because we're going through perilous times here. I am not in favor of the $1 million. People are without jobs. Our tax revenue is down, and I'm a taxpayer here in this county, and I'm concerned about our children, and I'm concerned about the old people as well, because I see a lot of old people hurting. So just to say, let's pile it on, I have a level of discomfort with it, but we're moving forward, because I did call Dr. Felder already. I had a level of concern when I saw some positions in our expansion item already being advertised in our job line. I thought, well, that's pretty getting a step ahead, but I guess we have to do it if we're trying to accomplish whatever. I will go along with the board, but I agree with our commissioners that a big expansion budget is just, it's not the way I would go, because I can see a lot of hurt. Maybe you all are privileged people. There's a lot of hurt in our community, and people going without, and people dying. And I just can't support that $1 million. So I'll say that. And then I will go along with the board so that we'll have a united front, and I'll keep my mouth shut.
Hillary?
I was just gonna say that I would be fine taking the bonuses out too. That, I think, given the current climate, sadly, I just don't think I can support that with the level of need our kids have right now. But the other things on our budget, I don't necessarily think are coming from a privileged place when we're trying to talk about serving and educating kids. But
no, right.
I'll just leave it at that.
All right. So for me, I feel differently about the bonus, and just because the teachers haven't got a bonus last year, they're not going to get one this year, and they are definitely the front line of what makes a difference for our kids every day, and us being able to recognize them in some manner, who are going way above and beyond what they're expected to do daily. This is a way to do that. Now, whether the county decides to approve that or not, that's definitely a different position, but I will go along with the board because we do need to become a united front on that. I do agree with Brenda on, it'll feel a little out of touch to go in with all those new positions. I don't disagree. We still need that same amount of money for these other reasons, but going in and saying, hey, we're going to expand all these, and then at the same time say, hey, we got to go cover these, it sends a mixed message to the county commissioners to me. But whatever the board wants to do. Yep.
Well, can I just add something there? Yeah, which is my point was not necessarily that the particular way that we proposed to spend those dollars was exactly the way we should spend those dollars. My point was, I think we're going to need a pretty big amount of dollars, and it's up to the school system to decide how to spend the money. And so I totally agree with Ms. Stevens that I know that the chances of us getting this are small because of the hard economic situation. I just think if these are some of our possible expenses, like I do not feel comfortable going in and saying like, oh yes, actually we might need, we can handle less. Like we'll make do with whatever they give us, you know, clearly. But I would err on the side of maintaining our request.
So Sarah, thank you for that clarity, because that, I think that was the part of the confusion I had and Brenda had on, hey, going to ask for all these positions when, but I agree, the funding amounts, yes, we do need. Dr. Halkiotis?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I thought this bonus thing was supposed to be a standalone request.
It is.
Well, the way it's presented, it's almost part of our regular budget. And I think that makes it different, okay? The one-time funding for staff bonuses, $1,027,000. And that's part of the grand total shortfall. I think it's kind of deceptive when you present it that way. That's just me talking. Because if you're going to do the things you're talking about on that last sheet, schools are not built, they are not designed in the state of North Carolina with hot water available throughout the school. The places you usually find the hot water is in the faculty lounge and the kitchen cafeteria, the cafeteria operation, the kitchen, where it has to be provided. And that's the only place they allow Clorox, by the way. So to bring hot water to the schools alone would be millions of dollars in this county if you wanted to provide hot water because kids don't want to sanitize their hands with cold water. You know, we had sanitation stations for years in all our classrooms, and the system decided to abandon them. Teachers went out and bought hand sanitizer. Many of them still were doing that for the last couple of years, right up to March when we shut down. You know, they stopped doing that because it cost too much. We've got costs on that last sheet that Rhonda put up there that will fall into millions and millions of dollars. I'm not sure the county commissioners fully understand the seriousness of bringing children back to school and providing a safe environment for them.
Excuse me.
All right. So with all the comments, is everyone in agreement to our original budget request, but adding the last slide as the reasoning of why we believe we still need that level of funding? Is that the consensus of the board? I just want to make sure so we follow process on whether we need to rescind or not. And I agree with Brenda. This is completely different times, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Always. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Good with that.
Okay, Brenda? Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Brenda.
Yeah. There you go, Brenda. Go ahead.
Yes. So I agree with the board. I thought Todd was in charge of that.
He just mutes you. He doesn't unmute you, but I saw he was trying. Okay. And Sarah?
I agree with that too. And I would underscore this amount doesn't even cover the required benefits increases as well.
Okay, so the only other item, board, that I think we just need clarity on is the bonuses were submitted as part of our budget request. Even though it's a separate item, it was part of our budget request. If we are now wanting to go back and remove that, Jonathan, keep me honest, I do believe we would have to do a recension of that and then resubmit with the new items.
That's correct. I mean, so far the board's taken no action. You've discussed your existing proposed budget that you've already adopted and sent to the board, but you've taken no action on that. You've instructed staff to present to the county some different items that you plan on prioritizing with the expenditures of the funds, but you haven't actually taken any action in rescinding and amending the budget. So if you are, and this is the board's call, if you are in agreement to remove the bonus then that would need to be a motion to rescind and amend the prior approved budget of the board to eliminate the X number of dollars that are there tied to a bonus. And that's the way the board would proceed if you're so inclined.
Got a comment?
Dr. H?
Yeah, I'm not, I wasn't in favor of removing it tonight. I don't want to mess with it.
Okay.
I tell you that in the final analysis, when we come down, we're going to have to make some hard decisions in a couple of weeks.
Right.
That's the point when I would say, I can't support that when we can't have this and that for safety of children. That's the bottom.
Okay. That's fair. Others? Sarah?
Yeah, same. That's how I feel about it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Hillary?
Same for Brenda.
Okay, awesome. So I think this means, if I understand it correctly, as Jonathan said, there's not a vote needed, but the action we would like to proceed with for Rhonda to submit to the county, which they're asking for, just the reaffirmation that our budget numbers are the same. And here are the reasons we believe that these numbers plus more are actually needed to sustain what will happen in our next budget year.
Sounds good.
Dr. Felder, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I just had one comment with regards to the last slide. I just want to make it clear that, so that last slide represents the known. You got to know there are things that we don't know yet.
Right.
Please keep that in mind. There's the unknown, and we're just, taking steps in the dark to try to figure this out. And we know we're going to bump up against some things that we haven't even thought of yet. Mm-hmm. They're not captured on that list. I want you to keep that in mind. And then I wonder if it would be helpful to share the articles with the county commissioners. I don't know what they have access to, but I tell you, it has helped leadership in this to really open our eyes to what we're up against, because it's hard to fathom. You just fathom it. It just, the mind can't grasp it. And yeah, so it may be helpful to provide them with some context by sharing those articles with them. I'm happy to package them in a way that you can do that. You don't just
need a motion for that, Will?
We do not. We do not. This is simply, since we are not changing the budget, this is simply the messaging we're giving to the county commissioners. And, Dr. Felder, I think to your point, maybe the last item on the chart should be something that just says, unknown requirements for safety, security, health, well-being, or something, and put $? Right? To let them know that you said these are the known ones. We have an unknown that we're aware that we don't know.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And let me be clear. When I mentioned privilege, I was talking about adding new positions and getting bonuses when people don't have work. Certainly not helping children. That is number one on the list. Yeah. I was talking about bonuses and new jobs when we have people out of jobs.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, board. If there's no other comments or questions from anyone, we can end the meeting with.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, that was Dr. Halkiotis with the motion, Brenda with the second, Hillary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Dr. H?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
And Will is aye as well. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Felder and staff.